Oh man, I don't know what's worse, the fact that we saw that at 10:30 at night, or the fact that we weren't the only ones in there.
No, that was fucking Christ.
It was even funnier that they put it in the giant theater in there too, like the biggest one of the two biggest rooms in there outside of the IMAX room, and it was us. We were the first ones there because I was here for Midnight Sun earlier, and you were seeing Pacific Rim. And so for a little bit, we were the only ones in there just because we were kind of early. And then this 50-year-old man walked in at one point to go sit in the back. And then when he walked in, I was like, okay, well, if he's sitting all the way in the back by himself, I'm sure we could probably still talk during this. Might as well. He's back there masturbating.
I was gonna say, I had questions. I kind of wanted to, I didn't want to say anything because he was walking up, but I kind of look at you and go like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like that.
He's
no.
He walked in with a giant tub of popcorn too to butter that shit in the back of the theater. And then all of us were disappointed because a family walked in not after that. So
I don't know if he was disappointed.
Well, it means he can't masturbate and we can't talk. I don't know who has it worse. Although maybe he still jerked off. I don't know. When I got the tickets for this movie, I went up to the ticket guy. He's like, "What are you seeing?" I go, "2 for Sherlock Gnomes," and he just went. Damn it, I'm so tired. I don't know about you, but I was half asleep during this movie. I had to fight to stay awake during this goddamn thing. Thank God this was only 80 minutes long, but I was just slapping myself awake. I had to go get a little bit of soda in the cup that I had. Oh, God. And God forbid I took a nap during this thing, because Lord knows I want to talk about fucking Sherlock Gnomes. So what did you think of this?
The only thing I can say in a positive light for this movie is it is better than the Smurfs. But the Smurf is my absolute fucking baseline.
Uh-huh.
It is the lowest humanity can go in movie making. It is.
Yeah.
No. You're not gonna convince me otherwise.
We got the trailer for Show Dogs in front of this.
Oh
it's
my
from the same director.
God damn it! Oh, that piece of shit looks terrible.
I loved your 1, 2, 3 reaction of seeing the director credits on there, because not only does it start with from the director of Beverly Hills Chihuahua, to which you're like, oh, and then you about said something until you were cut off because it also said Smurfs. Then you got cut off again because it then said Scooby-Doo. Oh, well, what? Oh, fuck!
Yeah, fuck that movie. Fuck that piece of shit.
This movie felt like a goddamn fever dream. Like I'm sitting there fighting to stay awake in the goddamn thing, and here's Sherlock Gnomes investigating gnome disappearances in which they're being taken by gargoyles and held captive by fucking talking gargoyles. Like, I'm losing to a bird!
Under the employ of a giant pie mascot by the name of Moriarty.
Moriarty is a giant pie mascot in this film, and I don't... God, to describe this movie is going to make it sound more fascinatingly bad than it is. It's just bad. It's bad. And you never saw the first movie.
No, thank God.
Oh, don't worry. It was summed up in the first 2 minutes of this movie, in which you pretty much got Romeo and Juliet in a nutshell in the first 2 minutes of this, in which it's the 3 minion gnomes talking to each other over a book. And one of them is like, and now here's the story of Sherlock Gnomes. And the other two gnomes are like, what? Why are we doing Sherlock Gnomes? What about Game of Gnomes? What about Spider-Man Gnome Coming? And on and on and on and on with this. And I'm like, and Elton John is playing too. And I'm like, well, there you go. You just got the first one summed up for you. A lot of Elton John songs and gnome puns.
Yeah, when you said
Boom.
that, you were like, oh yeah, and the Elton John soundtrack for the first movie. And the first thing you fucking hear is Elton John again. You're like, up, see?
He executive produced both movies, and it's the same soundtrack in both movies. The only difference that I noticed was...
Well, now I know why it's so fucking gay.
Oh, and Mankini didn't...
What the fuck?
Well, they didn't... I'm
that?
disappointed. They didn't have the farting in the mud puddle scene that was in all of the trailers, unless that shows up in the middle of the ending credits. The ending credits, which were doing the Pink Panther credits for some reason. So maybe it shows up in there. Maybe it's a stinger. I don't know. So yeah, Elton John produced both of these movies, and it's pretty much a lot of either covers or he's just redoing the song. In the first one, there were a couple of songs that he redid, but he changed the lyrics to add the names Romeo and Juliet to it. And in this, I didn't really...
No, they didn't do that like that.
Yeah, I didn't... Not that it makes that much of a fucking difference.
Surprisingly, not a lot of gnome puns. I was surprised. I was like, when you hear like, yeah, a lot of gnome puns, I was ready for it because I knew, again, I've come from Smurfs. I have seen the Valley, and it is terrible.
Oh, they blew their load in the first minute of this movie. They yanked their fucking pun dick so fucking hard. This is only an 80-minute movie.
No. You'd think. But the fucking Smurfs did that shit for 90 goddamn minutes.
And with 2 sequels after that.
Oh.
This one, who knows if in 8 years from now, if we're going to get another Romeo and Juliet movie.
What the hell it would be.
Here's what's so weird about this coming so fucking far after the first one, and the first one wasn't even that good. Here's what's weird about it coming so far after is this movie's not called Romeo and Juliet 2 Sherlock Gnomes. It's just called Sherlock Gnomes. There could be a lot of people or kids or whatever that are watching this with their parents, maybe forgetting the other one even exists.
Or probably weren't even born when the first one came out. There's fucking 7-year-olds that are like, what the fuck is that?
And there might be people watching this who are confused as to why this is starting out like a Sherlock Gnomes parody, but then all of a sudden here's all Romeo and Juliet stuff and Shakespeare references mixed in with it. And they did a lot of this in the first one too, where there was a lot of in-jokes and things like that. They do that in this. Where they find a dog that has a clue on it, and he's a hound that belongs to the Baskervilles. Like, all right, yeah, you find that a lot in this movie.
Reichenbach Falls is the climax, and if you know anything about Sherlock Holmes, you know what that's about. Irene Adler shows up, although I don't think they use her last name, but
oh, yeah.
James Wong shows up.
Oh yeah,
fucking hell.
It's such a weird movie because it just starts out with Sherlock Gnomes as if the gnome version of Sherlock Holmes is already established in this universe. It just starts out with him in the middle of investigating shit, and then it's cutting back to all this stuff with Romeo and Juliet and these Shakespeare puns and Shakespeare references. It's like you're flipping back and forth between 2 different movies for the first act of the film, because you're getting this mystery of Sherlock Holmes, and then Romeo and Juliet and the Capulets and the Montagues. and their garden, they've moved to a new location, so they have a new garden, and then the older gnomes are retiring, and Romeo and Juliet are put in charge of the garden, and they're fighting, and Romeo wants to get her a flower. Meanwhile, there's this other plot going on with these missing gnomes and some bullshit.
And that was the other thing. Like, it makes the news.
Please talk about that.
So at one point, like, this TV news, it looks like a gnome version of the news. So I was like, okay, are they watching some weird like gnome instead of CNN, it's like GNN, their Gnome News Network, when they're talking about these missing gnomes, and Sherlock Gnomes is on the case, and then it pans back and it's in the fucking human's house. So I'm like, do they know these things are fucking living? And then that's it. Like, then it comes back to they're hiding and pretending like they don't exist. I'm like, so what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Did they steal the TV signal, and fucking were they broadcasting illegally on the?
There was something weird with the television in the first movie that had to do with a lawnmower commercial. I remember that. I think one of the gnomes was obsessed with a lawnmower, or fuck, I can't even. It's been too long for this movie to exist.
But I mean, was that specifically aimed at the gnome, or was that just the gnome was watching the TV?
I think he was just watching it, and Hulk Hogan was doing a voice, unless I'm thinking of another movie, but I think it was that one.
Okay.
It's been so goddamn long, but it was odd when that happens in the movie, because it's this news talking about, oh, the gnomes are being stolen across London. Will Sherlock Gnomes solve this mystery? Like, how do they know about... First of all, how is this news to begin with? But also, how do they know that Sherlock Gnomes is in charge of this?
Well, they even said it was a slow news day, and I'm like...
They did, yeah.
So, at that point, I'm like, do they know all gnomes are real? Do they somehow know that Sherlock Gnomes is real, and why does that not freak them out that gnomes are living? Because fuck all, garden gnomes are creepy little shits that need to be destroyed. But
how could they kind of not know gnomes are like a real... I'm fighting back a sneeze, sorry. How could they not fucking know that gnomes exist? Because, all right, they're doing, like in the first one, they're doing the Toy Story thing where whenever humans aren't around, they're coming to life. But whenever a human walks... Okay, if I walked into a room and then suddenly there's this gnome that either wasn't there before or was in a completely different pose before, is suddenly in a frozen position, like he is running away or looking at the door, or... I would think that either someone's fucking with me or that gnome is alive. Like, yeah. and no one really thinks about that in these movies. It's not as believable as it is, and I can wrap my head around it in the Toy Story universe.
Well, because that and the toys actually at least try to get back to their original positions as opposed to just freezing mid, unless they have no choice, in which case it's fucking toys everywhere. I mean, it's
shit
fucking
would
kids.
Fuck with me. Like, that would fuck with me if a gnome was just sitting there like a garden gnome. I turned my back and then turned around and he's like, gunk, like that. I mean, like with
he gets the 9-iron if that happens. He's like, no, done.
I mean, I'll say this: like, the animation on the gnomes is. It's good. They look glass. They look like they're made of glass, and when they walk around, they're making these glass sound effects when they're walking. It's the same thing in the first one too. They look like they did in the first one. And this mystery that they're solving. Okay, I was really tired when I was watching this. I was so having none of this goddamn movie. When I went out to the bathroom at one point, I took the long way around just so I could look at the fucking clock on the wall and see how much was left of this 80-minute movie. But this mystery, even though I was so goddamn tired during this movie, I figured this shit out within like 10 goddamn seconds. Like, okay, look, I realize that, all right, maybe Sherlock Gnomes isn't going to have the most unpredictable fucking plot in the world. Like, all right, fine, fair enough. When you're working for me, yeah, this is a really, like, I was like, okay, can all of these characters get to the resolution of this mystery? Can they get to the thing that I figured out within 5 seconds, that the M's gonna turn out to be a fucking W? It was a funny use of the Wilhelm scream, I'll give it that.
That was.
That was kind of
funny.
And
that was the thing, too. It's like, I understand that this is geared towards children.
Yeah.
But there are some parts in there that I'm just like, man, I don't know that a kid would. I mean, there's some, like, gnome drops off, like, the London Tower, just falls, and then you hear it crash, and I'm like, what the fuck did they just, that's dark.
Yeah, they don't follow through with it, though, because, like, I mean,
but if you're 7 years old at the moment, you're gonna be like, oh.
I think if a 7-year-old could predict this movie. 7-year-olds today need to grow up on the dark shit we grew up with. That gnome needs to be destroyed like Johnny 5 in Short Circuit 2, which is blood flying everywhere. That turns into a revenge movie.
Like pieces scattered everywhere, and you get the one piece rolls over and it's the eye, and it's just still kind of blinking.
I just can't.
Now that would be good.
I can't. It's hard for me to believe this movie exists. I mean, it's a Sherlock Holmes gnome movie. It's only made just because of the pun. That's it. Like, that's the only idea they had, was to make a pun movie called Sherlock Gnomes, and they fucking stopped there. Like, they fucking stopped there in terms of planning any shit with this fucking movie out and trying to make it clever. This movie's not clever at all. It's just...
And they took the Cliff Notes of all the Sherlock Holmes stories and threw them in there.
Oh, man,
is what they did. They didn't even try and plotting this stuff out. They just like, oh, that's a title. It says Hound in it. Let's put a dog and he can be owned by the Baskervilles. That's what they did. Like, it serves no fucking purpose.
The climax of this movie has to do with them saving the gnomes from, again, Moriarty is a pie mascot. Take that however you want it. He is a pie mascot who has talking gargoyles working for him. Again, it was... Fuck. Their rules of freezing is even weirder than the gnomes, because when people look up and see the giant fucking gargoyles standing there, hanging off of this goddamn bridge and fall in the water, I think something was up with that fucking gargoyle. Like, it's gonna turn into Jason Alexander from Hunchback. Hold the salami and cut the cheese. Like, and they have to save the gnomes who have been kidnapped and are glued in place inside of this drawbridge, and they have to get to them in time because Pie Man Moriarty, when the bridge goes up, it's gonna smash and crush all the gnomes hanging out underneath it. That's the plot.
Like a Pie Man Moriarty, man. What a deranged individual.
This movie was...
And it didn't glue them, he jammed them.
It was jam?
Oh yeah, it was pie filling.
Oh.
That's what he used to keep them in place.
God.
He stuck them pie oh, it's so stupid. It's
like the bastard son of Bob's Big Boy and the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yes.
This movie was fucking stupid.
Mixed with the Joker. That's how that works.
God.
Because Moriarty is traditionally
not a pie man.
No, not a pie man. But also is traditionally not certifiably insane. Like this one, like crazy. He's cold and calculated and... I don't know, maybe that's too dark, but I mean, they did push a fucking gnome off the tower to drop to his death, so I mean, come on.
I wish this movie went fucking balls out dark.
I would have liked to see one gnome get crushed. Just in the back. Sorry we couldn't save them all, and just...
There's a lot of stuff from the trailer that's not in this movie, which I guess thanks. But I mean, the movie still sucks.
You can call him Gnome Tenant Dan, and then at the end of the movie, he's got no legs, or he's got stumps.
Magic legs.
Magic legs.
I mean, one of them, I guess, can't use his legs because he's permanently attached to a toilet.
Well, he was until the very end of the movie, which makes you go, then what the fuck was the point?
Yeah.
When he suddenly jumps off the toilet, it's like,
make him.
You could do that the whole time? The fuck is your problem? Pull your pants up, finish shitting, and save your own goddamn self.
Make him the king. He's already got a fucking throne. There was one part in the trailer where one of them gets his hat chopped off of him and is running around freaking out. That's also not in the movie. There is a lot of stuff in the trailer that's not in this film. Again, that doesn't really mean anything because the movie's
they
still
do
awful.
In the beginning cut the top off one of the gnome's heads, but he doesn't run around and freak out.
Yeah, it was a different.
It was a different thing.
Yeah, it was a different like setup and location than it was in the trailer.
Although he was missing his top. Was it one of the little guys?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, he was missing his top. So did they mean to do it and then just left it out of the movie, but then couldn't edit it out?
I'm sure it's either was just cut out of the movie, or it's something that maybe pops up in the ending credits.
Because it just seems weird. Like it just. He just doesn't have his hat.
Yeah.
His hat's missing.
Hey, these gnomes have seen some shit. We never did get that one movie that, in fact, I don't even know if it's actually come out yet. But because I think it was pushed back a lot. There was a movie that we got a trailer for over a year ago that was about, it wasn't made by the same people who made this. It actually looked better, kind of better than this. Like, it was about a girl who is alone in her house. Is an animated movie. A girl's alone in her house, and these aliens are taking over, and she's fighting the aliens with the talking garden gnomes in her house, and the name of the movie is Gnome Alone. It looked better than this movie, I'll give it that. It didn't look good. It looked better than this film. And Johnny Depp, what the fuck? Like, he was just in Murder on the Orient Express. He was actually pretty great in that. Like, and that movie was okay. It wasn't a great movie by any means. He was really fucking good in it, but boy, I mean, talk about for every one really good like genre part of a movie genre you have to do a really shitty version of it right after that.
Gotta pay all those alimony payments for beating the shit I ever heard. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Way to go, jackass.
Your punishment.
No, it's my fucking punishment because we had to go fucking watch it. Here's your fucking money. Next time, don't hit your wife.
Well, it was still better than yoga hosers. I'll give it that.
Damn.
But yeah, this movie sucks, man. I didn't like sitting through this movie one bit. There was nothing I found funny about this movie. I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home and go to bed. Like, maybe it would have been fine if we were the only ones in there and we could have talked during it. I don't mean the movie would have been fine.
I don't know that even that would. It just would have been like just.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been painful sitting through regardless, but at least we could have said something during the fucking thing.
That's true.
But is there anything we're forgetting about Sherlock Gnomes, the riveting continuation of Gnomeo and Juliet?
I mean, you would say not just Johnny Depp though, but like fucking Maggie Smith and Michael Caine lend their voices. Like, what the fuck?
A lot of them who were voices in the first one are back in this one again too. And like James McAvoy.
Like James McAvoy and Emily Blunt, I could maybe understand because in the time of the first movie,
sure,
they weren't that big.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a little bit before Wanted had come out, so he was kind of well known for that. But he wasn't in the prequel X-Men movies hadn't come out yet.
Yeah,
I think it was another year. I think it was what 2012 when first.
Yeah,
or maybe late. Maybe it was the same year.
And I don't think either we weren't doing midnight screenings at the time, or it was just like we were just doing it during the summer, because those first couple of years they were just doing pre-screenings during the summer.
Right.
One of the gnomes wants to fuck a frog in this. That happens. It's talking frog that's in this movie that they like try giving her all these sexy moves and shit and curves, and this other gnome spends the whole movie just wanting to fuck the shit out of this frog. But it's okay, because they're gnomes.
He just wants to fuck her mouth hole. That's...
Yeah, man.
Whatever that little...
I got nothing else. This movie, don't watch this. This was rough.
Like, I couldn't even recommend it for kids. It's just, there's...
Yeah. There's...
How hard is it to make a decent kids movie that appeals... Fucking Pixar does it.
I really like Peter Rabbit a lot, and that's still playing right now. If you want to take the kids to something, Peter Rabbit's still playing. I thought that movie was fucking hilarious.
Don't take your babies to Pacific Rim Uprising, though.
Oh, yeah, you were saying they had a 4-month-old in there?
Yes! Like, probably not even that. I'm overestimating. It was tiny. Just sitting there, just bouncing in the front, like... The fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Maybe it's the same parents that brought their baby to Battleship when we saw that years ago.
Maybe, yeah, it could have been. But I'm just like, just don't. I understand. Sometimes you can't get babysitters. Sometimes shit like that happens. But I'm being selfish. Think about other people. Don't think about yourselves.
Or take them to Romeo and Juliet, I'm sorry, Sherlock Gnomes. Romeo and Juliet was the other film.
Yeah, that'll put the baby right to sleep, man. You'll be fine.
It fucking put my ass to sleep.
You can cruise right through. Be like, oh, yeah, okay.
It's gonna be a long ride home.
Sorry, Dad. I know you want to see Pacific Rim Uprising more than Sherlock Gnomes, but think about the rest of fucking humanity for once. It's your dick that got you into the situation. Just
That's
deal
right.
with it. No.
Go see Sherlock Gnomes.
Just fucking Christ.
Alright,
I don't know, man. I'm just like... I don't dislike this movie as much as I dislike 7 Days in Entebbe.
I thought this was way worse.
It is worse. It is. But I just... I didn't hate the characters, at least. I just wasn't... I just didn't care. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
At least 7 Days in Entebbe has a better version of it that's out with the 70s movie. I mean, what am I going to say about this? Like, oh, check out the 70s Sherlock Gnomes with Charles Bronson. It's great.
Or just check out Sherlock Holmes. How about that?
Or
with the fucking stories it's based on, which are much better.
Catch a rerun of David the Gnome. I wish this fucking movie ended with him turning into a fucking tree.
Don't tear my heart out like that. That fucking show. That was not a show the kids should have watched. But they fucking broadcast that
Hell
shit.
Yeah, they did. Worth it.
My mom had a hell of a time trying to figure out how to explain that one. I'll tell you what. Jesus.
Fucking worth it, man.
Fucking trees. I'm like, where's David? What happened?
He's a tree now.
Like 7, 8-year-old me's just going, what the fuck just happened?
This whole thing has been a prequel to The Giving Tree. I did not see this twist coming.
I don't think anybody did. That was just like, wait, so all the trees around us are fucking gnomes? What the fuck? Why are you chopping the trees down?
That's why they shatter like glass when you hit them.
That's almost like the time my mom said she was cooking Big Bird in the oven during Thanksgiving, and I thought she literally meant Big Bird, and she had to sit there and calm my ass down.
Follow that bird.
Yeah, it was just like, why are you cooking Big Bird? What? She's like, no, a Big Bird. But, you know what? Damage had been done.
Stuffed with Stuffaluffagus.
Oh. Yeah, I shouldn't go that far. That'd be bad.
So it's imaginary stuffing?
You have to pretend it's there.
Alright, next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday is Ready Player One.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
God's Not Dead 3 is Thursday. I'm gonna try to see that Apostle Paul movie before then. I'll try if I have time to. But alright, thanks a bunch everyone for watching us talk about Sherlock Gnomes at 1 in the fucking morning.
Jesus.
Later.
Bye.
See ya.